We have all faced detention and demurrage costs. It's a thing we battle with daily, if not weekly. It's one of those things that when you come in and you see a lineup of trucks, your heart sinks because you know that there's going to be some costs associated with that. And the worst part is at the end of the month, when those bills come in, you're the one that's answering for that. And that is the one thing that you could eliminate if things were working 100% efficient. And that's when you get charges of upwards to $1,000 to $2,000 per hour. But it can get even higher than that if a container has to sit in your yard for a lot longer. Answering to your bosses at the end of the month of why you have these detention charges are one of the worst things ever. Because you know at the end of the day that it's something that shouldn't happen. And there's no real good argument to say, you know what, we had a bad day, or this load went a little bit late, or this person showed up when they shouldn't, because no one's going to listen to that and take that as an excuse. One of the craziest stats that we found out is between $15,000 to $35,000 per year on average is wasted at each facility on detention and demurrage costs. That's like taking one of your forklifts and just setting it on fire just because you had a truck wait longer than it should have. And in this video, we're going to go through some of the things that you can do to help eliminate detention and demurrage costs at your facility. Step one is starting to track every shipment. If you do not know what's going on in your facility, it is really hard to improve that and make it more efficient. We see so much first come, first serve, and people not knowing what is actually showing up. So you could end up having a container show up that you'd actually have to unload right away or get to in the next 24 hours, but you're getting hammered from all your other customers and carriers that you didn't even know about. That is the first step, is getting that information and those analytics in front of your team and making better decisions with that. Step two is getting a better handle of the containers and live loads that are coming into your facility. So now that you have the analytics from step one, what you're trying to do is lower the amount of volume that's currently on your facility. So things like how many containers are in your yards. If you have a yard and you're accepting containers, you want to get that to a low number. How many times I've talked to people and they say, I don't even know how many containers or trailers there are in my yard. I know that they're just coming in and out and we have no idea. That is terrible and scary altogether. So lowering the number of trailers, containers in your yard are going to start lowering your detention costs that you're facing monthly. Step three is perfecting your paperwork. So many times there's missing paperwork with loads, and that could even be live loads coming in your facility. That's going to start off a whole kickoff series of your team trying to reach out to your customer care, trying to figure out what this load is. It's going to take 30, 40 minutes to an hour just to figure out what's supposed to be on this truck or what's coming in on this truck. The other side of it is if you do not have all your paperwork well organized and ready to go for all your loads, that means when you start hitting borders and customs, it's going to start causing delays. And we all know that that just sits there, that driver is waiting there as you get all that paperwork to them. And usually it's not at a convenient time. It's usually after hours that you're getting those phone calls with the driver stuck at customs and trying to get that load through. And you're trying to figure out who is the right person to talk to know what's on that load and get that right paperwork to that driver so that can get released. Having the right QC process or inspection checklist is an important part of this too. So when those loads are coming in, you're checking those seal numbers before you cut them. And then whatever process that you have to do once you open those doors. If you have that really locked down, you can easily go back to any of your customers or carriers with any damage. And that way you're going to start eliminating that waiting time for that driver. You could release that driver right away saying, hey, we're going to go check that out. Or you could start telling your customers that based on what they have done or that there was damage to the container, that there's also going to be some charges coming down the pipeline. Having a really good customs broker is key to this whole process. If that person knows your products very well, the customs and the borders that you're dealing with, that's going to cut down that wait time of the driver just sitting there waiting to get released from the border or the customs and allowing them to get going to your facility. If you go and save a couple of dollars with someone that doesn't understand your products or the industry as a whole, that's just going to kick off delays. So when you're picking that customs broker or you're training your team internally, you really want to make sure that that right person is doing the paperwork so there are no delays. Step 4, mastering your 3PL contracts. Utilizing a 3PL is one of those things that is really powerful when everything's working the right way. If you're using a 3PL and you're not as organized as you should be, you can start getting some really expensive costs. If you don't have that communication with them of when these containers or live loads are supposed to show up, it can start creating delays for them. And then also they need to figure out what's going on with that load. So if it's sitting there, and this could be a live load, it could be a drop trailer or container. If it's sitting there and not being worked on, that's going to cost you money. So if they're trying to figure out where this is going or what the next step is, or if there's some sort of quality control issue, that's going to hit your bottom line again with the truck sitting there waiting. Now, on the flip side, if you're actually running a facility that's a 3PL, which a lot of our customers are doing, you want to look at it and make sure that everything's well oiled and you do have that information coming in. So instead of waiting on your customers to tell you, hey, this is what's going in, what I'd be doing is reaching out to them, start utilizing some software that allows them to get that information from their systems into your system really easy, really simple, so that you can start seeing what's coming in and out. And then there isn't that delays. Yes, you can book them for extra money, but we know that at the end of the day, it just causes extra chaos that you don't want to deal with and more headaches. The other thing is when you're looking at your contracts, when you're using a 3PL, make sure you know what all those fees are. You really want them laid out that these are the costs that are associated with it. And I can tell you firsthand knowledge that you're going to get charged a lot if you have something sitting there and not being worked on. If I were in your shoes, I'd be looking at how do we get those costs as low as possible in the negotiation phase. Don't wait until a little bit later on to hear, that $2,000-$3,000 bill for a container sitting there that you didn't even realize that was there because of that breakdown of communication. Negotiate that at the beginning. Make sure that's all laid out because that's only going to save you in the long run. Step 5 is automation and exception monitoring. So now that you know that there's all these issues that are coming in your facility, you're starting to see these trends coming in. Now it has to happen in real time. Having software that can flag and let your team know that there are these issues coming down, that they can actually start dealing with that before it becomes a big issue is massive. So those first steps from 1 to 4 are kind of the visibility steps. You're trying to make those improvements where step 5 is the next step of really optimizing your process and allowing your team to react to these situations as they come up instead of waiting for it to become a bigger issue as the day goes on or even as the days go on. For instance, Datadocs has this all built into the system and you set up rules around it of how long an appointment should be until you start getting warned about a detention or demurrage. And then also when that alert should go off that says that you're in that time frame where you're actually going to start getting charged. You'll get visual notifications on the screen, but also notifications directly to each user that needs to know that information. Again, so that you can make these decisions and react to what's going on instead of waiting for those bills to come in at the end of the month. Detention and demurrage are one of those things that easily sneak up on you at the end of the month. You're going to start hearing from the uppers that, hey, we have all these costs that are associated with loads that are late and just waiting in our facility and in the yard themselves. Instead of waiting for the end of the month for those reports to come back to you and having those awkward conversations of why those loads are sitting there or those containers sitting there, start being proactive, start using some software and some processes in place to make sure that you have the right operations, the right people, and the right software to help you with all of that flow of goods in and out. I think that's the biggest thing to look out with this because detention demurrage isn't a conversation that you'll normally have day to day if it's not happening. It's one of those conversations that get people really upset because it's a waste of money at the end of the day for loads sitting there waiting in your yard. So instead, being proactive, you don't even have those conversations. You can focus in on bigger issues, also while making yourself look pretty good to your boss. If this video helped you solve some of your detention and demurrage problems, I have another video that helps you solve the common issues found at warehouses.